各位觀眾大家好，歡迎收睇26分鐘見證實錄精華回顧。每年6月係加拿大原住民歷史月，紀念原住民對國家、社會嘅貢獻同埋慶祝原住民文化。喺今集嘅節目，我哋就會同大家重溫 Squamish 原住民部族點樣透過一個語言項目去重建自我認同同埋社區連結。而一棟現時坐落喺卑詩省 Squamish 地區嘅建築對於 Squamish 原住民嘅語言復興又扮演住啲乜嘢角色啦？
Even before I got the opportunity to learn our language, I had a dream completely in the Squamish language with a distant relative of mine. We had a full conversation, and even before that, I didn't know I could only speak one or two words in the language, and just in the dream, knowing that it's just rooted in our spirit as well as our DNA is just a beautiful thing to experience. So just being able to bestow that upon my kids even before that is a beautiful thing.
去年8月，呢一座擁有112年歷史嘅校舍穿越 Barak 海灣，嚟到位於北軍嘅 Squamish 原住民部族。
We greeted it. It came on a barge underneath Lionsgate Bridge, and so what we did is we had drummers and singers and regalia that we went down, and we greeted it when it landed on this side and followed it all the way as it came along the bottom road here. We followed it, sang songs, drummed, cried. It was very emotional for many of us. And then they parked it over there for a while before they actually put it into the spot.
而在此之前，呢一座建築物曾經面臨消失嘅風險。
This was known as the Little Yellow Schoolhouse, was located in our village area of Sanok, in what is commonly known as the Kitsilano area. That was, it was going to be demolished, and there were various groups that really wanted to save it as a heritage building, and were looking for anybody who was interested in it. And there were multiple parties involved that somehow I came to the Squamish Nation and talked to the right people, and we were already scrambling for space. We used to have our language nest across the street here at the littlest one school, but they're growing and they're expanding for grades, so they needed their space back. We had nowhere to go. We didn't have anything. And timing was really, I think it was impeccable, the timing. For us, we believe it was spirit-driven, that the building has come here from our village of Sanok. We believe that even the timber that is built, the structure underneath has got this huge timber, old-growth timber, that would have come from the area in the village of Sanok and is now in our village of Homolcheson.
經過幾個月嘅翻新工作，今年春天，呢一座黃色嘅建築物終於迎嚟咗佢嘅新主人。
We moved into this building, it was February 5th.
We didn't have a space before. We were moved around, or we were very limited in what we could do. We didn't have the freedom to put and lay things out and know that they could stay there. They'd have to be moved sometimes, or we had to follow somebody else's timelines about opening and closing. And so I think that having a dedicated space is one of the greatest things that I think has happened.
This is our nest home that we get to call home.
每個星期1到星期4，卡雅都會準時喺呢一個家裏面等待佢嘅家人們到嚟。
We arrive, we open up the nest, so it's like putting up the blinds, making sure everything's clean, and then we come into the kitchen. So one of us, or maybe two of us, will be preparing snack. And so we always offer food. That's a part of our hosting. And in the long ago, a lot of our families were prepared for visitors. So I feel like it's nice to continue that on. So we always have an offering for someone. So it's nice to help with that nutrition of our muntmunt that attend the nest. Our approach here at the nest is we're learning the language in a natural setting. The way it's set up is a home-like setting, kind of like how you would be at home with each other, just like how we're running the circle time. It'd just be sitting together and singing songs, drumming and singing. Our home is set up in sections, so every section has about a language domain where you can speak to each other in Squamish, but in a natural way.
I also think it'd be healthy to grow past and kind of grow and develop from the institutionalized anxiety of speaking your Indigenous language in the home as much as you can, as Sarah said. Even if it's just like 1 or 2 words a day in your Indigenous language, it's more than some of our not so distant ancestors were allowed to speak, and now we are allowed to speak. And taking advantage of doing so is very important.
Yeah, just to kind of like touch on that a little bit, one of the biggest reasons that we did want to raise our kids in the language was because that right was taken from our family. And our son is the first in 4 generations in my family to be raised speaking Squamish language, knowing that it's safe to speak Squamish language. So for 3 generations in my family, it was just completely lost and didn't feel safe to use the language. And so it's been a really powerful thing to reclaim that back to our family.
We didn't really grow up being immersed in our language, so it was really hard that our ancestors who attended residential school and day school, so they were forbidden to speak it. So it was really hard for them to grow up feeling proud of who they were and where they came from.
Not long ago, when I was a child, when my aunties would get ready to go to town, they would get dressed, they would speak to each other and say, okay, this is where we're going to go to town. We're not going to speak our language, only English. That's not how it is now. That's not how it's going to be for our children. They're going to be free and are. That's the invitation, making that space to say they can speak the language and it can be heard across our homelands, wherever they are.
而為咗俾小朋友同家長們提供更好嘅沉浸式語言環境，卡雅同佢嘅同事們對呢一個語言之家進行咗精心嘅佈置。
It actually means like who is that knocking on the door? Yeah, it's like Swatmat Afe wa Kwok's aim. Like who's knocking? Yeah, so we say that like who's that knocking on the door? Yeah.
而類似咁樣嘅帶有 Squamish 發音注譯嘅示意圖，幾乎遍佈咗整個教室。
This here is where the little ones gather, even us as the older people. So they'll have their snack here, and then we speak Squamish together. But also we use it as an art table too. So they do all their art activities. Yeah. And
what are those?
This is the word for table, and that's latam. So we have that on there, and then on the back of the chairs, which is the word, is kaik. Yeah, so we have it. We try to label as much as we can, just for just reminders for new beginners when they're learning, so they can use it as opposed to the English word. Yeah, and then over here is our squishatsot ayek kind of is our playroom area where we do a majority of our Squamish speaking here. So we have less toys because we find less is more, and the less we have, the more we can speak. And they always have their favorites that they go to, and they'll play it every day. So. And a lot of our animals that you would see, we have many songs that we use with our animals. The kids love them.
卡雅表示，佢總係盡可能將 Squamish 部族嘅文化元素融入語言教學當中。
Well, I always reflect back and think of how we lived in a long ago. Like together we would live in a longhouse with so many families living in a longhouse, and we would do things together. Everything from ceremonies, drumming and singing, weaving. We have, each one of us brings gifts to the nest, and one of the gifts that one of our Chishamane, we call ourselves Chishamane, and it's to be motherly towards someone. One of them is a wool weaver, so we just recently purchased looms, and she's going to teach our families how to make their own regalia, whether it's from headbands or quarter bags that we'll use in ceremony. And then while we're making it, we'll be speaking Squamish together.
而呢一度嘅小朋友亦都總係能夠俾 Kaya 帶嚟驚喜。
And there's also a 9-month-old that's in our nest, and she said one of the probably hardest words in our language. Consists of 5 sounds, so it's gauchk, and she said it to one of our Chishamane, and I think we were all shocked when she said it. We couldn't believe it, but now she's actually going from saying that to now singing a part of our like good day songs. So she sings the Hot Squile Chisha, which means good day, to her mom. So now she's singing. And she only just turned a year old. I think it was like 3 weeks ago. Yeah, so there's many milestones that I feel like it's on the daily that there's something good that's happening.
We haven't had a first language speaker, a fluent first language speaker of the Squamish Nation, I would say in maybe roughly 90 years, because of residential schools and the impact. And this place and space is offered a dedicated space for language to be learned, to be immersed in. And when our children, the youngest ones from 0 to 3 come in, they are immersed in the language. There's no English being spoken. And so it's providing that space for our next generation of first language speakers. So it's very significant. Our children at this young age are having an opportunity to hear really complex sounds in our language that are not made in English, that many adult learners have challenges with to properly pronounce. And Kaya, that you spoke to, our language teacher, has let me know about some of what I would say things that we celebrate, where some of the children are speaking and saying very complex sounds without thinking about it. And so, yeah, it's providing a space and place for our next generation of fluent first language speakers of our Squamish Nation.
Samaya 表示，永久地址嘅成立對於語言計劃嘅發展至關重要，而接落嚟嘅，佢哋會對呢一個空間嘅外部環境進行進一步嘅裝修。
We've got work to do on the outside of the building. We've done a lot of the renovations completely on the inside, but we have the outside to do. And then along here, so we're going to paint, we're going to work on the windows. So what's going to go along here on the outside is the name of our building here, and Tutsipsbechken is going to be put along here. It's not complete yet, but it's coming. If you come back after the summer, it will look completely different. The color will look different. We're going to work on the playground in the background, and the outside in the backyard, in the back area. We're going to have it set up and designed for 0 to 3-year-olds. So something that they can have some outside time and, yeah.
Squamish 原住民嘅語言復興項目正係為佢哋嘅族人打開新嘅文化之門。語言係佢哋嘅根基，承載住過去嘅記憶，亦都指引住未來嘅方向。下一節，我哋將會深入去了解呢一啲嘅努力點樣影響住佢哋嘅生活。歡迎返嚟節目時間。 Squamish 原住民嘅語言復興運動啊，係一場關於文化認同同共融嘅旅程。咁等我哋一齊深入去了解佢哋係點樣凝聚社區、樹立文化自信呢？
Her name is Alate Natum, and the word Ale means dream, and then Natum is to do something to yourself. So it's like to dream of her, basically, is her name, is to dream of me. But we just think of it like the one who is dreamed of. But yeah, we named them both in Squamish, and that was important to us because we speak Squamish primarily at home as much as we can, and it didn't make sense to have a name that had consonances and vowels that we don't have in our language.
用自己嘅語言命名係對自己身份嘅認同。
The language is rooted to the land, it comes from the land. It is the foundation that provides our people, it's rooted to our identity of who we are and where we come from. It's at the foundation of our cultural practices. Our language is what helps us understand our environment, our world that we live in. It helps us understand our relationship to the plants and the animals, to the mountains and the waterways, and our relationship with each other. So language is critical in us understanding and knowing who we are and where we come from, which is important. The old people have always said to us, you have to know who you are and where you come from. It connects us from the past to the present, and most importantly, grounds us to take good care of our children and future generations.
而用自己嘅語言同本族人交流，對 Squamish 族人嚟講並唔係一件簡單嘅事情。
One of our biggest struggles is that ever since our son has reached an age where he's starting to enter doing things with his peers, like he's in daycare now, and we're thinking about preschool, and then like kindergarten's just right around the corner. But our issue is that there aren't enough adult speakers doing work in these parts of the community for him to maintain his level of proficiency that he's been growing up in. So at home, his proficiency has been really great, but just even since we enrolled him into daycare, his proficiency dropped drastically when he wasn't also attending our language nest that we do with him regularly. And during the off season when language nest isn't going on, same thing, like his proficiency will drop quite drastically.
西門菲沙大學原住民語言中心主任 Marianne Ignax 表示，唔單止 Squamish 語言，目前卑詩省以至整個北美嘅原住民語言都處於一個唔樂觀嘅處境。而要承傳原住民文化，當務之急就係要保護呢啲瀕危語言。
So that's what we've been doing to document languages, not so much for the purpose of academia, but for the purpose of present and future generations then being able to rely on that knowledge and put it to use for their own learning and for the future generations that will learn languages. And the other part then is seeing that we're in this situation of critical endangerment, our most urgent task is to produce a critical mass of adult speakers of languages that are at a level where they can carry on conversations, they can speak the language as long as is necessary.
Samaya 亦都指出，只有掌握語言，先至能夠更好咁傳承其文化脈絡。而 Squamish 語言之中有好多詞彙係冇辦法直接翻譯㗎。
Squalowing, those thoughts and your feelings inside. It's not only that, but it's how you conduct yourself. When you go to get a cup of tea for an elder, or you go to help somebody, not because you have to, because you're moved, that's what you do. That's your squallowing. That's showing your thoughts and your feelings. It's love, you know. So concepts in our language or words, love that. I want to understand what I'm saying, you know. So we have teachers within our department that I sit with and we'll do that. Talk about what does a word, like what are we saying? Because it's connected to the land, it's connected to our environment. It's connected in understanding who we are and what our relationship is. You know, we don't have words for cousins. You know, we have to understand where we fall in the family to know, are we brothers, aunties, uncles, sisters, and knowing who you are and where you come from, you can make that relationship and reference them in the proper way. You know, and that speaks to our world, our values, and who we are.
Samaya 強調，語言作為文化嘅重要載體，能夠幫助人了解歷史，從而更好咁走向未來。
Because I can't imagine doing anything else. There's, I would say, yeah, there's just, it's not a job, first off, it's a body of work that I'm committed to. I believe I have a role to play. I talked about kind of a puzzle, everybody's got a role to play. We can't do, no single person can do everything. We need each other collectively. Our people need each other. We need it to speak the language because you can't speak by yourself. You can't learn by yourself. So I have a role to play in the work that's happening with the growing the Squamish language and cultural learning opportunities for the people. And so that's brought me here. I absolutely believe that's the response. That's the one that's going to unwind what's happened for the impacts and effects of residential school. The language and the culture is the answer.
I think that's why we try to keep him immersed in our community, where he's seeing and hearing Squamish language being used normally, and it doesn't feel like he's the alien going into all of these English spaces, but it feels like, oh, this is normal. Everybody around me is speaking Squamish language too. So we always prioritize like community events, language gathering as language speakers for that reason, to make him feel safe and comfortable using the language, because that it is like probably our biggest barrier is with raising him as a first language speaker, is that it's hard to keep him encouraged when not everybody around him is speaking, and it's not really a whole lot that we can help with. I mean, there's only like maybe a little over 100 Squamish language speakers as there is, and they can't all be doing everything all at once. So we try to educate people within these areas of small words and phrases that might help too.
So I think that more space and opportunity for the speakers that we have to be able to get together and speak as a community, and then and the next resource after that is creating more speakers in general, from our youngest to our oldest.
So we're working on having space for them as well, to say that's wherever people are at. So if somebody's not comfortable today, that doesn't mean they won't be tomorrow. We're really growing space and learning opportunities for learners, speakers, that will help gain, their confidence and in more places to speak.
I hope that it won't be as abnormal to speak the Squamish language as the Squamish Nation as an entity as a whole, that we'll all be able to learn Squamish as a first language and learn English as a second language as an entire community. There's a little over 4,000 of us, and in the future that I hope that it won't be a requirement to learn Squamish. It'll just be what we're learning, and it'll be a requirement to learn English rather than the other way around. That we'll all be able to speak as a community once again. Even before I got the opportunity to learn our language, I had a dream completely in the Squamish language with the distant relative of mine. We had a full conversation, and even before that, I didn't know I can only speak 1 or 2 words in the language, and just in the dream, knowing that it's like just rooted in our spirit, as well as our DNA. It's just a beautiful thing to experience. So just being able to bestow that upon my kids even before that is a beautiful thing.
好啦，今集嘅節目時間差唔多啦。咁如果觀眾對我哋嘅節目有啲乜嘢意見嘅話，係好歡迎大家以電郵嘅方式同我哋聯絡㗎。我哋嘅電郵地址係mag26@fairchildtv.com。 如果觀眾想上網重溫今集嘅節目，亦都可以上到去我哋嘅網站3w.fairchildtv.com， 點擊節目重溫一欄就可以睇得返㗎啦。下星期同樣時間再同大家見面，晚安。